Welcome to Roll Call, Reflections on Leadership and Legacy. This is the podcast where we sit down with trailblazing Asian American business and community leaders to explore their journeys, challenges, and triumphs. Each episode, we dive deep into the personal stories and experiences that have shaped their paths to success, resilience, and impact. From overcoming adversity to leaving a lasting legacy, we celebrate the diverse voices and powerful leadership that are shaping our communities and our world. I'm your host, Holly Geerdes, and together we'll hear firsthand accounts of what it truly means to lead with purpose and build a lasting legacy in the Asian American community. Today, in our podcast, we have Henry Yu. He has been a business and community leader in the last 40 years in the United States. Hello, Henry.
Hello.
So, Henry, can you share a little background of who you are and where you came from?
I was born in Hong Kong many years ago. Finished high school in Hong Kong. Went through, primary school, secondary school, and then I guess I was an average student. So my dad actually decided to come to this country to provide a better opportunity for us. We have 5 children to attend colleges in U.S. And then with that, I came to U.S. in the mid-'70s, and then we were in Detroit, Michigan.
And how did you immigrate to Detroit, Michigan?
Actually, my dad I think it's a big sacrifice for him, came to this country first, and then later on, the whole family moved to Michigan.
And back then, what was the immigration policy allowing your dad to come in?
Actually, I believe there's a special visa available back then, many years ago. I wasn't aware of any, but I think he came to this country, probably having spent 3 years, and then the whole family moved to U.S.
Can you describe what that experience was for your mother and your brothers and sisters, even your father coming into the United States, living in Detroit?
It wasn't easy. Actually, my dad, obviously, English is not a mother tongue. So even for him, he basically learned basic English. And actually, my dad gave up a lot coming to this country. And so he was basically started all over. Obviously, naturally and easier to make a living is to go into restaurant professional. So helping run the restaurant as a chef, and then later on have their own business.
And so did the children work in the business?
5 of us, actually, yes. After we moved to Michigan, I was actually helping Dad establish a restaurant from scratch to finish, arranging bank loans, buying equipment and everything while attending school at U of Michigan.
How was your experience when you were young in school? What was your Asian American experience?
Well, born in Hong Kong, lived in Hong Kong, and actually Hong Kong is a very dynamic city. It's more westernized than a Chinese cultural environment. So everything we went through in high school, primary school is very westernized. So I think the Asian American experience started when I actually attended college and having moved to Michigan, interacting with local communities and, of course, in the mainstream communities.
And what challenges and stereotypes did you face then when you were young and in college?
Well, first of all, I think if you remember, during the mid-'80s, going back, even in the late 70s, attending university, and some of the students was asking me, not in a negative way, are you Chinese or are you Japanese? So the comments are not that negative, not derogatory, but a lot of the regular citizens, when they come, actually meet, maybe just come across and walk in the street, and then they saw you, are you Jap? Are you a Chin? I mean, that is very, very difficult. Being a newcomer to this country and accept the fact that, we're different.
Did your brothers and sisters have the same experience, or was it diverse amongst your brothers and sisters?
That they do have the same experience. And actually, all five of us, I think we were engaged helping dad in the restaurant and doing our part to make a small contribution. And we actually had two restaurants. After the first one, I set up the second one for my parents while we were all going to school at the same time. I have two brothers and two sisters. I'm the elder one. So I guess that's how you learn about, in your early life in terms of responsibilities and ownership. Particularly after my dad moved to this country, basically his mom and Henry, and being the eldest son, and also actually helping the four brothers and sisters. So that was a lot of commitment and responsibility.
And what did you learn from your father as you watched him immigrate here, start with nothing, and ultimately owning a business, a hard business to run, even now? So, what do you feel like you learned from watching your parents sacrifice for the children?
Going back a little bit, I think my grandpa was very successful businessman, owning a lot of business in Hong Kong. And then he passed away. So my dad actually took ownership of the business and managing properties and assets. And he has a small business, but obviously he failed miserably. Really, it was difficult for him. There was never a transition where he learned about the trade, the business from grandpa. So that's a very difficult time. He basically lost everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I was at primary school, so I witnessed the ups and downs. I think that makes more resilient. But also in my early stage of my development, childhood, primary school, secondary school, and even college, that I have been basically taking on more responsibility other than going to college. Going to college at the same time, help run the restaurant, doing everything, including ordering food. I was sort of jack of all trades. I did extremely well with the clients. That's how I pick up my English. And also we cater many parties. You're looking at 1,000 people parties in Michigan. So that was something that I learned. I pick up the soft skill, how you interact with people. I think more importantly is make me a better person, really appreciate life, everything you have to earn.
What do you believe you learned or was born with to make you that interested in learning how to run the business, how to do it well? What drives you?
It's necessity, right? We need bread and rice. So naturally, and also I think maybe the Asian culture comes into play, being the oldest child. It comes with certain responsibilities, and certainly this is a bit too much. I'm basically an example that our brothers sisters have to follow. I think this is all within the Asian culture. Certainly, very true in our family that maybe it's not pressure, but it comes with it being the oldest.
Well, for those that are unfamiliar with the Asian culture, can you just describe, what is that you just described about being the eldest and having that responsibility and the work culture and the sacrifices that, were very common and still is in the Asian culture with the eldest son?
I remember this, my dad actually asked me, you need to get a good grade in school so that your brothers sisters will follow. Something I resented a little bit originally. Also peer pressure too, I think, among the Asian, certainly Chinese, grew up in Hong Kong. Sometimes, parents tend to compare your children with others, which I think is ridiculous. So I tend to be a little bit, I guess, I'm a little bit rebellion in my early ages of my development. So I basically, rather than focusing on college, I mean, I was an average student, and maybe born and living in Hong Kong, where it's a lot more westernized. I tend to be more westernized than a true Chinese, Hong Kong Chinese, born and raised in a typical Chinese family. So in my early ages, I actually find ways to avoid studying, but at least keeping a good grade, be average. And then I was involved in everything that sports has offered, culture, event, you name it. So I think through this, that's how I get away from. Now, I don't want to argue with mom and dad, but at least I have to respect that, which is our culture. Non-confrontational. At times, it's drive me nuts too, obviously. I think that's inborn, or maybe this is the Asian way. Keep it to yourself. Not very expressive. Also, I think to avoid making the other party feel bad. I think this is the Asian, this, at least to my knowledge. And certainly it's true in a lot of the Asian cultures, whether it's Japan, or Southeast Asia, people don't confront. They are more, I guess, in United States, we are more individualistic. And I think in Asia, consensus, go with the norm. I mean, that is very different. So through that experience, I learned about, being myself, but also at the same time, respectful of others, including my parents, obviously. And I think I picked that up in my early stage. Because of up and down, I think made me a better person to really appreciate life. Not everything is a given. You have to earn it.
How do you feel you balance the individualism culture in the United States and the consensus, non-confrontational culture that most Asians in your generation or before came here in the United States? How do you feel like you balance that? And still today, how do you balance that?
Okay. I think one thing I know for sure, is I'm a Hong Kong Chinese, right? Mm-hmm. Chinese heritage. Coming to this country, this is home now. I think 40 plus years ago when I came to this country, I purposely want to really spend more time learning about the American way. What is religion, culture, education, and business. But keeping in mind the heritage is very important. I think people understand it's okay to have dual identity. We are in USA, so I would consider an American, or at least Asian American, but ideally I want to be American. The people look at me as American, not just the Asian part. But deep inside, it's a heritage that we have to accept, embrace, and so it's okay to have dual identity. In my early years, I actually avoided interacting with Chinese folks because I want to focus on learning about college football, baseball, you name it, including sports. I play tennis, I play a little bit soccer, and I watch football. And so, you have to assimilate yourself into society, being part of it. That's how you learn about the American value and differences in terms of Asian cultures.
What do you feel like you have passed as to your Hong Kong Chinese heritage to your children that you would like them to continue, the culture and the heritage aspects of it?
Well, actually, that's something that my wife and I are very conscious of. But most important, they are Americans, even though they were born here. So we never force them to learn the language, but rather took them travel everywhere, including Asia, Toronto, Hong Kong, Taiwan, mainland China, where there's a huge, of course, people speak Cantonese, Mandarin, you name it. So that's how they learn when they feel good about visiting other countries, rather than put them into colleges, or not colleges, but classes to learn about Chinese. Actually, we did put through the older one, studying Mandarin when she was a teenager, but she never enjoyed it. So my wife and I decided, you know what, just let go. She'll pick it up later. So thank God we did that, because it was very difficult for her to learn. And so I'm sure growing up, they also are wondering about their own identity, right? American and having Asian face. So we just let go and let them actually later life of their life, they actually want to learn more about the language, Cantonese or Chinese. So I think that's the best way to learn rather than being forced by parents to learn the language.
What do you feel like they are more curious about with your Hong Kong Chinese heritage? Have they expressed knowing where the grandparents started?
Yeah, we took a lot of pictures growing up, obviously. They actually at times came to mom and dad's house, and particularly the last 10 years, look at old pictures and ask mom and dad to tell stories about grandpa, grandma. That is great, obviously. So particularly the young one is very keen in knowing more about the history of parents and grandparents from both sides.
And how important do you think it is to start documenting the Asian American experience from your generation or earlier and so on, so that the children remember that this was not easy and to gain the wisdom from what you have learned through coming here with your parents? How important do you think it is to document that? Because I feel like we're going to lose that history. And a lot of Asian Americans in your generation and earlier didn't talk about this. They didn't want to talk about their problems that they had in the past, the struggles, the challenges, the racism, the stereotypes. And once they're gone, that history is gone. And in order to learn and evolve as a society and as human beings, I personally believe we have to record and remember the history. Otherwise, we just make the same mistakes and we just don't evolve. So what are you doing, or what you feel like is important to make sure that the next generation can look back and see the history of how the success happened for them generationally? And so what are your thoughts on that?
It's very important, for example, for me to talk about the Asian American experience, what we went through. But keep in mind, too, there are the underprivileged, underrepresented Asian communities in this country, too. And their voices are actually, because of the English, some of those folks, they speak broken English. So obviously, their history, their experience will be lost.
And are you
Right.
referring to what part of the Asian American population are you referring to?
For example, there are the underprivileged folks that came to this country. They were engaged in restaurant business, never made it to mainstream. And even the moms and pops are also, they're living in their own village, a Chinese village. I mean, it's true in different cities and states in USA where, they sacrifice themselves so that the children, the ABC, American-born Chinese, they have a better life. And for themselves, they never assimilate into society. So a lot of that will be lost, right? If you don't capture. Yeah, I think I'm okay, relatively successful in terms of my contribution to society. And I can talk about a lot of experience and sharing. But I think also it's important to include the underprivileged folks whose English are not as good. And they also, keep in mind, they're not willing to share, right?
Well, part of it is
English
shame,
too.
right?
Shame, yeah. Nothing to be ashamed of. I told people, hey, I pick up my soft skill by serving people, restaurant. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Right.
What business did you focus on after college?
To be honest, I was studying and then working. I actually live in Ann Arbor, and then Friday, drive home. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, help that. And then Sunday afternoon, drove home. So basically, I wasn't even prepared in terms of my own education career. I knew that I was going to be, actually, my first wish was to be a lawyer and a CPA. I changed from a lawyer to a CPA. And then later I just took economics because, economics is very important, knowing about the economy, and then I got my economic from University of Michigan. And then I got my MBA from University of Detroit while I was actually working part-time for New England Life because I never planned to be a banker. So what happened was after graduation, I took a vacation actually to Hong Kong. It was supposed to be a few weeks. But I met a banker from Bank of America who convinced me to join the local bank, not as an expat, but as, in between the local high and expat. So I called my mom, can you ship me all my clothing? They were shocked. And also, I feel very bad because I think even my siblings, they never accept that the older brother is in Hong Kong, that they have to take care of mom and dad. I feel bad, but this is my life, and I was hoping that they will accept it. So I think my parents, they're okay being away from them, right?
And how long then were you a banker?
37 years in banking, and then a few years in insurance while I was working for my MBA.
So tell us about that banking experience then in that world as an Asian American.
Actually, being in the right place, right time is the reason why I'm here today. Really. While I attended U of Michigan, I needed to take a foreign language class. I just stumbled into learning Japanese. And then the rest is history. In my first 5 years in Hong Kong, I learned about banking. I also learned about Asia Pacific. Having experience to business with more than just Hong Kong, I actually handle a few relationships from Southeast Asia and from Taiwan, from mainland too. So back home in the States, I spent 5 years in Hong Kong. And then actually I was lucky enough because my Japanese, not fluency, but a little bit knowing about Japanese, the characters. At the same time, the Japanese automakers were flooding into USA, including the first-tier supplier. So I was being the right place at Comerica Bank in Detroit. And then actually my boss, quote unquote, told me, Henry, are you Asian? I said, well, I'm not Japanese. Oh, you study Japanese 1 year is not enough. So I think that identity, being Asian, Chinese Asian, actually helped in my entire banking career, being the right place, right time.
That comes to my questions. We have in our community some Asians that always look at it in a disadvantage point.
Yep.
And I disagree. I think I'm a glass half full person. And I believe that your struggles and your failures and even stereotypes or racism is an opportunity for you to learn, to be a better person, to also learn to be more resilient and learn how to respond appropriately to those kinds of challenges and failures and even racism. So for you to say that where, it is an advantage, I feel like, we need to have that conversation that it is not a disadvantage to be an Asian. And sometimes you need to look at it as an advantage. And so what are your thoughts on that?
Well, actually, I'm glad you asked that question because rather than look at this negatively, being Asian American, we have to accept that nothing can be changed. So, I think this is something that may be biased or maybe unfair because I think the expectation were too high for Asian Americans, at least from the workforce in business. I know that even my old boss told me, actually he was my mentor, but he is my mentor in life. I only have one. So basically, the way I look at this, I learned from him. I learned a lot from him. Rather than being shy away from the negativity being Asian American, why not focus on the positive side? Taking full advantage of it. That's exactly what I did. Just same thing with, we all have a strength and weaknesses. Focus on your strength. Forget about the weakness. It's opportunity cost. I mean, I learned from my boss. I have my weaknesses in my early years, broken English, not convincing enough, not authoritative when I speak. But I learned it because my boss told me, Henry, I'd rather have you focus on your strength. Forget about your weakness because you have better strength, more strength than weaknesses. So through that, I become more resilient, become more forceful in everything I do, become a little bit more individualistic, but at the same time, very conscious about making sure I take care of my boss and the surrounding peers. I mean, that's very important. It's forming alliances, whether it's in workplace, non-profits. That's how you grow your network.
That comes to, you're a well-known community leader. And so how did that happen? Why did you uh, spend a lot of your time in the community, in the nonprofit world? Can you explain that journey from banking to that world?
Okay, well, actually, I experienced this in my early years in Michigan. You heard about Vincent Chen, the Detroit case. He was wrongly identified as Japanese. He was actually, there was some argument in the bar. He's American Chinese. And then the guy actually took a baseball bat and hit him, and he was dead.
How long ago was that?
It was in 80, I was in Detroit, it was in 82, 83. And I actually witnessed, I know Vincent Chin, Chin.
And during that time, what was the climate within?
Oh, very, Japan bashing was huge in Detroit, Michigan.
And why was that?
Because the 80s, Japanese companies were all over. Actually, they were moving into Michigan. Mazda, the auto company, came to Michigan in 84-ish. And then all the first-tier supply follow. And then after Mazda, you have Honda in Marysville, Ohio. And then Kentucky, you have Toyota, and then Nissan. So I'm just very privileged to be actually having all the Japanese automobile companies and the first-tier supply as my old clients. I usually have 3 Japanese helping me with those relationships. I play golf 4 times a week. I mean, I had a wonderful career. I mean, I was basically, actually, just my responsibility, my annual income from the Japanese auto industry alone was $8 million 30 plus years ago. And then normal VP, business development officer, their annual goal were about $500,000.
Wow.
So I was a recipient.
And so during that climate, then what was that like for you?
That was difficult because keep in mind, I was helping, I was getting my degree. I was helping my parents, 2 restaurants. I have no time to be involved in community affairs, even though I really wanted to help. Vincent's mom was devastated. I know Vincent Chen and the mom through kung fu practices and playing line dance. I actually know how to play line dance in my early years. I was a sick kid. So my mom put me through kung fu and line dance to make me a stronger person.
Well, after that horrific incident, what did the community, Japanese community or just Asian community at large do in response?
They were I think the old OCA was involved actually back then.
Ah, and if you could
I was fully
state
aware
what OCA is.
The used to be the Organization of Chinese Americans. They rebranded into OCA Georgia. Back then, it was all Chinese affair, taking care of Chinese folks in USA. A civic organization, very well run. Even back then, I think they were the voice representing, the unfair, the treatment, and everything. So that's when I get to know OCA back in Michigan. But I was too busy with helping my dad run 2 businesses, attending college. There's no way I have time to be involved. So when we moved to Chicago in mid-90s, I was helping behind the scenes set up the U.S.-China Chamber of Commerce. Actually, that organization was set up by the elder Bush, Prescott Bush, who passed away.
That's
I was helping them set up the Chicago chapter. Behind the scene, I'm not the type, to be vocal in terms of talking to the press or even taking pictures. I always shy behind the limelight because I wasn't ready to be 100% committed to helping this organization. I was actually observing this group. After I helped them set up, attending a couple of the events, I basically walk away.
What was the motivation for setting that group up?
With motivation?
Yeah.
Set up for the sake of setting up, that's all. Okay. Yes, promoting business between China and Asia, annual dinner, where just celebration, having a good wine and good meal with no specific agenda. And then the character who was running it, I had difficult time with. So I just washed my hands and sayonara. In 1992, in Cleveland, Ohio, and Columbus, Ohio, with National City Bank. Because being Asian, I was actually I was one of the diversity facilitator named by senior management. See, this works in my favor, being Asian American. So I received diversity training in 1993.
So
DNI.
this is SunTrust?
No, this is the old National City Bank in Cleveland and in Columbus, not part of the PNC Bank Group. And then when I joined SunTrust in 99, I asked, do we have a diversity council? So senior folks, we were just setting it up. I said, wow, you folks are 15 years behind.
Well, so let's talk about the diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI, which now is really politically charged. And there's some extreme views on that, including affirmative action. So back then, DEI, what was their take on that when they were establishing that? Why did they want to establish it? It's a business, so what did they think was going to help with the business? Because I don't believe you do anything in a business unless they think it's going to be beneficial for the bottom line. So tell me from a corporate standpoint why they wanted that at that point. And then your appointment, what did you do in that position?
I guess I'll probably take it back to the 92, 93 in Cleveland, where I was a diversity facilitator. But I think back then, and I think still right now, there are certain elements of just, it's the right thing to do without having a fully thorough assessment of what needs to be done. Just do it for the sake of doing it. Back in 92, 93. That was the reason why they set up diversity. Just to fill the quotas, right? It looks good on your website, having a diversity council, having folks from different all walks of life, from different race and ethnic and religion. And actually, I knew that nothing other than, and you get together from senior management, talking to the employees in banking about diversity. There were no concrete action. It's just like do it for the sake of doing it, just to meet the quota. So when I joined SunTrust, I asked them, Diversity Council was established, I believe, in 98-ish in SunTrust. I asked them, do you have an Asian affinity group or Asian resources group? There were no other group. There was no Latin American group. There were no group that are helping the Black employees, Hispanic and Asian. So I helped set up the Asian Affinity Group. I asked them, back at SunTrust, I believe they were looking into having a senior management team member being a big sponsor. And my first question I asked them, you want to set up an Asian Affinity Group? Is there a business component to it? They asked me, why would you ask? Well, in order to get funding, in order to get the attention from senior management, from the sponsor, who normally is the EVP level, executive vice president, he or she would prefer having a diversity council or Asian affinity group properly aligned with a potential new segment of business.
Yes.
I was way ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
I wrote a business proposal. Let's set up Asian Affinity Group, Asian Bankers Initiative. But at the same time, let's identify business opportunity among the Asian business in Atlanta, Georgia.
And what do you mean by affinity group? What is that?
Because I know at SunTrust, we have many Asian employees. Majority are tellers and low position. I was probably I was the most senior executive at SunTrust among the Asian. And after that, I've seen a few VP level, and that's it. Majority are middle level or low level, more so task oriented, very specific. I think this is something that I really want to help the Asian bankers, because they are very good tellers. They're good in transaction, good in performing tasks, but they are not being considered on a higher position because of these communication skills. And because of being an Asian, they are less vocal. They don't want to brag about themselves. So that is something that I really want to help them. And one of my belief in life is it's good to brag about yourself, but why not align yourself with professional people that can brag for you?
Mm-hmm. What do you feel like is the evolution from the 90s to now on DEI?
Actually, I know SunTrust was practicing it. They have a special segment of business catering to the wealthy Asian professionals and Asian affluent households. They also were looking into helping small business owners. So that was a major breakthrough.
And do
Early
you feel like you had a
2000.
part in that?
A little bit. I was sharing information a lot about my history and my experience in Chicago and Michigan. So I I spent about 5 years in Chicago with the same bank in Detroit, helping them set up international team in Chicago.
And then now, why do you feel like DEI is still necessary or maybe not? What is your take on that?
Well, it is still very necessary because when you look at the whole world, I look at the whole world is also they also need to embrace DEI in the whole world. We are not doing it now.
What do you mean we're not doing it now?
Well, in terms of diversity and inclusion, I think in world affairs, we need to embrace and we need to work with all other countries. See my point?
Yeah.
It's no different. Maybe on the bigger level. But on a smaller scale, obviously, we still need the DEI. DEI with specific focus. And I think, to be honest, in order to get all the business buy-in, has to be a business proposition. At least has to be making money for the company that you're with. Having that will actually help improve the constituents, the people who are in this space, the Asian American professional. But also, I have to say it, the Asian American professional have not taken ownership. This takes two to tango.
Yeah.
Not just having a senior management buy-in. You have to interact with them. You have to force them and engage them, empower them to take on new projects, take on new segment of business. Asian Americans are not equipped to do it yet. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, let's talk about why you feel like Asian Americans are not equipped yet. And also, it's controversial to think Asian Americans need DEI because we have the stereotype that they all work hard, therefore they become successful. They're good at math, they're good at sciences, and therefore they're successful. They don't need any leg up. And,
I think
besides other minority groups, because of how our parents raise us, some of that stereotype is true. We come with hard work ethic. We don't like confrontation. And this is the stereotype, right? And part of it is true. And the parents tend to focus us more towards being lawyers, doctors, sciences. And what people don't know is the original immigration was bringing in Asians that were into sciences and a more professional. That wasn't just magically, parents wanted to put you into that. That's how they came into this country. That was the only way they could come in. So, it is very controversial when you talk with Asian Americans and non-Asians about DEI as it relates to Asian Americans. So what is your take on that?
Well, maybe I should just mention a little bit about, in terms of my observation and interaction with other Asian. Certainly, I went through that stage too. Being an Asian American, your first 10 years of your career, you saw accumulation, learning, knowledge gaining, and performing task-oriented job requirements. At the same time, we have family commitment, pressure from parents and peers that a lot of times the young professionals do not take a medium to longer view of community service. Certainly, DEI is an important part of it. Is to really be. I guess it's about, I would not say time management. I think it is more energy management, where I think the young professional need to start it in their early career to do networking, to be exposed, and create a positive image. Something that myself, I wish I did it earlier, but I think a lot of younger folks, because of again, this goes back to our non-confrontational side of us. But I would urge young professional, Asian American or American professional, to start early, because I was a recipient, really, of being different than your normal Asian American in terms of how I shape up my professional career. But more importantly, is to focus on having one organization that he or she would love to spend time on. But also, this is very important. Many Asian Americans don't realize you have to engage your spouse in everything you do.
Mm.
That's how you get your buy-in from your wife. Trust me.
That's just life in general, right? The family that plays together stays together.
Exactly. And when I started actually, I came here, I joined, actually, my first organization I joined was the National Association of Chinese American. I was a board member. Give me some word affiliation. When people think of NACA, National Association of Chinese American, what do they think of? We do a lot of good things. Silence. So when back then I was one of the members. So when I became president, my two goals that year: create a branding and signature event, and then succession. 2004, my first year, asking me succession.
Long term.
People always, particularly for Asian, the mentality is more short-term focus. I noticed that, particularly for Chinese.
Well, is that just merely survival, right? We've always had to work so hard, take care of the family, take care of the parents, and also work and peer pressure. So it's more immediate survival every day. And I think that's just in general. Americans. Now, give me some idea of how, when you transferred or gave some of your time to the nonprofit community world, what was that impetus? And what's been your experience over time in that nonprofit community advocacy world?
Well, I guess it goes back to, everything is interrelated in life. Your career, your mentor, everything we do, I think there's connectivity. So when I was in SunTrust, I was lucky enough to be on the Diversity Council. I was also corporate and investment banking compliance task force. I was jack of all trades. And my business development function, bring in business, I was actually able to, but of course we all deliver, Asian American in our career, deliver with flying colors, right?
Yeah.
But that's not enough, because, your boss expect you to do a good job, and, you got A performance rating or B. That's not enough, because we are not reaching the top yet. I actually asked my boss when I was in Central, say, look, I want to, being a diversity council member, I want to spend more time developing the Asian business. Strong reason for him to say yes. And I even told him I may be carving out 1 hour a day from 9 to 5 to work on that. Guess what? He agreed. But actually, this is something I want to convey to Asian Americans. We all do a good job. So during your year-end or semi-annual performance review, bullet point, prepare 1 page. Keep it to yourself. Talk to your boss and use that opportunity, because we are all minimum B employees. I was an A employee for the past 37 years. Minimum B employees, and where is banking or law firm, CPA, they will take care of, I hate to say it because of opportunity too, right? They normally have a tendency to take care of B or higher performers, or even borderline C employees. So for the younger professionals, you need to start right away asking for what you believe is fair, because all the high expectation already fit into your boss assessment. So during your interview, during your performance evaluation, particularly for young professionals, ask your boss to give you an hour to learn about IPO, hour to learn about wealth management. That's exactly what I did in my first 8 years. I actually asked my boss to carve out 1 hour for me to learn about how to do IPO, investment banking. So use that opportunity. I mean, if you don't ask, people are not going to give it to you. That's taking ownership and accountability.
Well, it goes back again. We're not really taught to ask for things. We expect that our hard work is going to speak for itself. And frankly, that's most people, but particularly in our culture. And so the younger generation still, I think, to some extent, are passive or fearful or doubtful that they can ask for those things.
I learned by my mistakes too, obviously, through my entire career. I think one thing for sure, rather than asking for a promotion, I learned it the hard way. But again, I have a great mentor who has been with me for the past 30 plus years. And even my mentor, Warren David Schiffert Jr., knows my wife well. You see the difference? Now, so going back, when you ask your boss to do certain things, right? It's not, for example, Warren, I want a promotion. It has been 2 years, whatever. There are better ways to do it. Instead of asking Warren, I've done a great job. I think I should be promoted to a first VP or whatever. Use a different tactic. Say, Warren, I know you have done a great job in our department. How can I help to do a better job of growing our department, helping you and helping me?
Making it our company.
And I got my promotion within the next few months. But my mentor, my boss, even better. He even told me, I said, Henry, I'll delay your promotion, but in the interim, I give you a bump up in your base so that when you are promoted, you have a bigger base. He's helping me on the financial aspect as well as my title. I just learned it from him. And this is something that we need to be, I think that's not even Asian American. We have to be, we have to manage our own career. And actually, this is something I learned. Even though I was affiliated with banking, I was running my career like a company. I have the Henry Yu branding. I have my product to offer. That's how I did it, particularly in my middle career. First 10 years, I'm at your mercy, the bank, your boss. Right? No matter how hard I do, it's the first few years, it's all accumulation, learning how to do it the right way and do it well. Maybe the latter half of your first 10 years, focus on networking, exposure, image, which we lack big times.
Why do you feel we lack that? Because there's a lot of Asian American organizations specific to the, race and culture. We don't really intermingle between the two different vast organizations of Chinese, Korean, South Indian, Vietnamese, Filipino. It's all separate organizations.
Operate in silos separately and never cooperate.
And as we discussed,
never share resources.
GRPA, which is the Georgia Rotary Professional Alliance, was set up to bring the leaders of all these organizations to collectively, like you said, network with each other, know what we're doing in our separate universes, and also collectively make a bigger impact and legacy in the Asian American community. And the one thing that our organization loved about you, Henry, is that you cross those lines. You intermingle with all races, all cultures, and you think of the world as a world, not just United States, not just Chinese American. You understand that in order to make an impact, you have to think of the bigger universe. We're all as one. We're all one community. And so that's what fascinated us about you. And we appreciate, what you've done in both the business world for the Asian American community and also the community advocacy world. And, I want to ask you, your business acumen, your skills, the DEI, everything that you learned in your business leadership roles, how did that translate into the community advocacy? And was it frustrating in the community advocacy world where I run everything like a business, even when I do community advocacy? How frustrating is it, or was it, coming from the corporate world and then translating those same skills and knowledge to the community advocacy world?
Yeah, it's well, a lot of trial and error, obviously. I think the key is actually I have some experience. I realized after I moved here in 1990, the Japanese, they don't mingle with the Korean, the Chinese, they don't mingle with the Taiwanese
Yeah.
or the Vietnamese. So the first thing I actually was trying to change the mindset after I joined the National Association of Chinese American NACA was I actually brought in a new board, Caucasian, Filipino, Taiwanese, Singaporean. So I guess that's diversity, but more in terms of bringing new ideas from different people, not about from each country or Asian. So I did that, but also I noticed that most group they don't want to interact with others because they want to keep their own identity as Chinese organization or Japanese or Korean, which is perfectly okay. But if you don't participate, share your resources with other groups, what good it is in terms of learning the best from others. And the reason why when you folks approached me, I was so happy because I attended one of your function before. I was very impressed because you are not the typical organization. You have a specific goal. You know exactly what you want to accomplish. But with most Asian groups, I can tell you, at least from my experience, the Chinese group, annual dinner, blah, 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 talk a good talk, and that's
The
it.
typical galas, right?
No continuity. I don't believe in reciprocity because you attended my function, I attended yours, which is good. Saying hello, meeting old friends, but there must be a specific reason why you organize the activity.
Yeah.
I wasn't happy with how the different organizations are interacting with others, not even among Asian Americans, let alone with the European communities or with others people. I mean, even the Japanese, and this is something that Japanese are embracing a lot more about other Asian cultures.
Why is that?
Because keep in mind, we have over 600 Japanese companies, big Japanese community, and also a Japanese school. By the way, I was in Japan American Society of Georgia board for a few years.
It's okay.
Because of my relationship with Japanese companies. And more importantly, I just want, this is something that I really want. I picked it up during my trip with the former Mayor Reed. Quote unquote, people want to do business with people they like. It doesn't matter you're Asian, American, or European, you name it. So based on that, I was advocating a lot of cooperation. In my early years at NACA, I wanted to cooperate with OCA, even with NAP, before I went to China. It was 2000. After serving a few years with NACA, I started reaching out to different community. I spent a lot of time with the GVAC, Georgia Vietnamese American Chamber of Commerce. I actually give a lot of mentoring sessions to their board members, including how to do import-export, both business and community service. And I interacted with the Korean community in my early years, mid-2000. I helped Delta Airlines put together their Asian Affinity Group, sharing my business proposition at SunTrust. Because of my background, obviously, I was facilitator, diversity. So basically, I was involved in helping Delta, TBS. I do a lot of D&E engagement, speaking engagement, and also more importantly, talking to the Asian about the need to reach out to others. Open up. Maybe I'm a different individual because the way I was brought up in Hong Kong. The British has a lot of influence, positive ways in terms of shaping up Hong Kong. So going back to your question, there need to be more education involvement where the Asian group need to interact more with the universities, the business side, but also on the business side, we need to form partnership with people. And that's exactly what I did. And I'll give you an example. This is a true example. I believe there were 8 killings of females, right? I think March 2021-ish.
Yeah.
The Chinese community, Korean, everybody was great. Get together, doing fundraising, right? One time or a whole year. And that's it. Afterwards, what happened? Actually, I shy away from that. And after that incident, I actually met with Metro Atlanta Chamber of Commerce, the diversity team. I asked them, you have a DEI group. How much do you know about Asian American business contribution and us being in Atlanta, Georgia? Quiet moment. VP of diversity. So next thing is I actually took me 3 meetings to convince them to allow Hong Kong Association of Atlanta do 2 events a year, jointly co-hosting 2 AAPI events. 2023 was the first time that actually we have the buy-in from Metro to host a luncheon in May to celebrate our Heritage Month celebration. And that was, I think, the first, 2023 in May, we talk about DEI. And then the second year, we talk about, we actually, by the way, we include more than 30 Asian groups at our own expense, because I know how to do fundraising. So it's a free event. To get everybody together, using good food will be the perfect way. So I use a combination of spring rolls, banh mi from Vietnam, and we got to take care of local business.
Yeah.
So everybody was happy, and Metro was very happy. We have a panel discussion involving an Indian, a Pakistani, and Chinese. And I believe I was moderator.
Where do you see or envision the AAPI community going, let's say 25, 50 years from now? For what kind of change do you wish for or hope for in the AAPI community?
Well, actually, I want us to be viewed as just Americans, having at least a voice in our society, not just, not just Asian American, just American in general. Because after all, everything we have done is mainstream. We are part of it. We are part of the village and the state and the country there where we live in. And more importantly, actually, the reason why I really embrace other culture countries, because that's the best way to promote Asian American, being surrounded with Europeans, the American, the Hispanic, to share your cultural heritage, whether it's food, education, or business. That's the best way to promote us.
Now, what would you like people to remember you by?
Oh, I don't know. I never thought about it, to be honest. Well, to be honest, as a community leader, I'm very proud to say that I have helped leaders achieve excellence in long term, not just once or twice. It has to be long-term focus, a positive impact for those future leaders. I'm not leading them, but I help them achieve excellency, which is that's my philosophy and my accomplishment. I have many followers in life. When I change banks, I normally take a whole team. That was one of my requirements. And I don't even know how to use a resume. I don't need to.
Your children or your wife, what would they say in 1 or 2 sentences to describe you?
I went out, helped people 110%.
That's wonderful.
And that's something I feel bad, because I'm devoting most of my time spending time with my wife and catching up with children. But you know what? Everything I've done, my 2 daughters benefit big times, because they learn from mom and dad how we operate. Elaine, my wife, was helping me with at NACA, everything that the production worked. So I had her buy in because she was involved. She feel like a part of me, part of the Henry Yu branding in community. And people know her. That's accomplishment. Yes, a lot of hard work. 20 plus year, NACA dinner, cold reception area was my wife. Even though I was not president. That's dedication without any kind of repayment or recognition. I mean, that's very different. I'm the type, I'm very shy. My wife told me, Henry, too much. Every week you're on Chinese newspaper when I serve. I just said too much. That comes with territory.
Yeah.
People recognize that. I developed the mentorship program. It was so successful that was the talk of the town. And I feel good about it. It's the grooming young leaders, future leaders. So everything I do is pay back because I receive a great education and have a great mentor in life. Then I'm giving back all my speaking engagement. I'm promoting indirectly, directly the Asian culture and business.
Do you still have the mentorship program?
Yes, I'm glad
Can
to
you
say that.
describe what it is? And
I started a little bit background. I think that's very important. 2024, we organized a mentorship, the first program, 300 people.
Who was we?
Student.
Yeah.
Who was myself.
Okay.
I was doing everything by myself.
Okay.
And which is not healthy, by the way. I know I only have two hands.
Yeah.
But why not surround it with good people, right? So after that, overwhelming success, UGA local university. And then I started to develop a more structured program where 2-year program where you pair 15 mentor to 15 mentees. And those 15 mentors are my friends, VP level in corporate Atlanta. Because of what I did, global business. So I get in, I had an easier time getting into the senior folks at Home Depot, you name it, to small companies because of it happened that Asia was on the rise, right? China.
Yeah.
So timing was right. So that's when we branch out into setting up a structure where the pairing 15 to 15, and then they can meet anytime they want, separately, but also annually 4 programs where we hire professionals to conduct the leadership training, mentorship.
Now, is that program still operating? My understanding is you're not part of NACA.
No. What happened was, after I left 2008, the university mentorship program stopped for 5 years.
Why was that? Because you left?
Well, I put in over 200 hours a year.
Oh, okay.
Just on mentorship when I was president. You know how much time I spent on NACA?
I don't know.
Well, I would not mention it.
Yeah.
So after I left, obviously, see, I believe in succession. You don't train the young people in an early phase. What happened if Henry I moved to China, 3-year assignment. So basically it stopped until I came back 2011, and then I rejoined. I ran 4 years. Let the young people do it. I don't believe in occupying the seat for the sake of occupying it. Yeah. I don't need it.
Do you feel like that was one of the mistakes in your advocacy, mentorship, things that you were working on, not really having a succession plan immediately from the start?
Oh, I have a succession plan. That was one of my goals. I should be more forceful, but this is the side of Asian American, right? Go with the flow.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to listen to the entire board.
Yeah.
Including your VP, your other people, not just the president. So I was there helping them until about 2016. And actually, I was advisory chair too. And they still want to keep me, So I said, look, even advisor, face me out. It's not healthy. Let the young people run it, because in board meeting, the folks will be so shy to even talk up.
Yeah.
All the good ideas will be shut down.
Do you feel like the mentorship program can be revitalized even if it's a different organization?
Oh, yes. Actually, I know a couple of young professionals want to do a young leadership professional mentorship too, to help the business.
Maybe you can recruit them to GRPA.
Well, to be honest, this is my true belief. I want to be surrounded, including Hong Kong AA, with good organizations like yourself.
Yeah.
I think you have your specific purpose. We have our specific purpose. We share all resources, young professional. Let's do something grand together to bring everybody together. I mean, that's my wish list, particularly helping the young professional, whether it's in the career advisors. To be honest, you don't have to take everything what I just mentioned. Take the best from people. Pick and choose. Use your own judgment.
Henry, in conclusion here, and thank you, this has been a wonderful podcast. What is your philosophy now? Our philosophy on life, our faith, our spirituality, evolve as we age, get more experiences through our challenges and failures, and also just, learning from other people. What is your philosophy, your faith? What drives you spiritually to make this a better world?
Well, I guess first and probably most important, you have to be fair to people.
And where does that come from? Is that from your parents? Is that from your mentor? Or were you just born with that?
From my parents and from the ups and downs that we are witnesses. While going to school, my parents, my grandpa was well off. So my dad went through hell. Actually, one point in time, he wanted to commit suicide. So all the adversity, all the ups and downs in life, and more importantly, I think I was fortunate enough to be surrounded with good people. Really, that really helped shape me. For example, we were in Chicago for a while, cold weather, and then 5 of us, we were walking to school, and the black couple pick us up, drop us off, and ask, "Oh, if you need help, call." I mean, that is very positive. That's probably shaped up a little bit in terms of how I want to reach out to be embracing everybody. And because through that, I learned so much. Even though I mentor many professionals, I learned so much from them. And also, even those mentorship is not a 1 or 2 year. I started mentorship 20 plus years ago, even before NACA, one-on-one. Same individual there in their mid-40s also consult with me when they have the children, the family. I mean, this is very fulfilling. It's the entire lifespan.
And do you think that this is a legacy, as you call the Henry U branding?
Well, actually,
what is that branding ultimately going to look like?
The branding is trustworthy, open your heart, help others, and that's it. Everything in between.
And be fair to everyone.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Henry, for coming today. This was a wonderful podcast. I've learned a lot, and I hope I can continue to learn from you. And I'm excited to see what the future brings with your continuation with mentorship and community advocacy.
Well, I guess my comment is we're here. I mean, God has everybody in this society for a reason. Even though I'm not an atheist, my children attended churches in different religions. My parents are Buddhist. I believe in all kinds of religion that help us guide how we live our life. I think what I stress is being surrounded with good people that will make a big difference in your life. And I truly believe, your organization and ours can be the organization that can help shape up our AAPI community in general in terms of having us have a say in the entire community, mainstream. So that's my wish.
Well, I guess we have it on record that you're going to commit to work with us then, with GRPA.
Well,
we have it on record, ladies and gentlemen.
We have a lot of young board members, and you know what? It's all about 2 groups working together, not Henry, you, and Harley.
Yeah, you're right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.